In a world that never stops shouting, remaining silent has become a radical act of power. Look around, everyone seems desperate to be heard. Loud opinions, loud emotions, loud displays of status. It's almost like noise has become the currency of value. But here's a truth most people aren't ready to hear. Noise is weakness. The louder you are, the more approval you seek, the more you chase recognition, the less grounded you are. Because true power doesn't announce itself, it doesn't plead, it doesn't compete, it commands, without raising its voice. Think about the people you truly respect, the ones whose presence alone changes the atmosphere. They don't need to boast, or prove, or dominate a room. They are the room. Their energy speaks louder than words ever could. That is silent strength. And in ancient times, there was a philosophy built entirely on this kind of power. It was called Stoicism. Stoics believed, you don't control the world, you control yourself. You don't dominate life by force, you master it through discipline. You don't become strong by shouting. You become strong by learning how to remain still while everything else burns around you. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, and one of the most powerful Stoic minds to ever live, once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let that sink in. Your strength is not out there. It's not in status, applause, revenge, or validation. It's within you, quiet, steady, waiting to be awakened. And no, it's not a trick. It's not a quick hack, or some viral mindset trend. It's a skill, a mental muscle, built daily, through intentional effort. You train it when you resist the urge to argue back, when you choose presence over panic, when you breathe through conflict instead of fueling it, when you choose clarity over chaos, self-control over self-destruction. That is silent strength. It's what allows you to walk through storms and not flinch. It's what separates the grounded from the reactive. It's what builds men and women that the world follows, not because they shout, but because they embody stillness in a world of noise. So here's my promise to you. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 6 core lessons, each one built on timeless Stoic principles and forged in the fire of real life. Not just theory, but real, practical strategies to build unshakable strength from the inside out. But I need a promise from you. Don't skip a part, don't rush through it, don't just nod your head and move on. Sit with it, reflect, apply, because the truth is, the people who master silent strength don't just learn it, they live it, they become it. So if you're ready to stop reacting, ready to stop needing external noise to feel internal worth, and ready to walk through the world with quiet, commanding power, then stay with me. Let's begin. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone pushed your buttons, and you reacted instantly? Maybe you raised your voice, maybe you shut down, but for a moment, you lost yourself. We've all been there, but here's the truth no one tells you. Every time you lose control of your emotions, you surrender your power, you hand over the keys to your peace, to your clarity, to your self-respect. All because of someone else's behavior. And what does that make you? Reactive, predictable, easy to control. But the Stoics, they saw this differently. They believed true strength wasn't about suppressing your emotions, it was about owning them. You don't pretend you're not angry. You don't fake a smile through fear, you feel it. You acknowledge it, but you don't serve it. You respond, instead of react. You observe what's happening inside you, but you don't let it shape what you do next. That's the difference between emotional maturity and emotional slavery. Think of it like this: your emotions are a powerful horse, strong, instinctual, fast. But you are the rider. You hold the reins. You decide the direction. Let me give you a real-world story. There's a man I know. He worked in a brutal corporate environment. his boss publicly dismissed his ideas, his co-workers mocked his presence. Most people would have snapped, quit, exploded in rage. But not him. He stayed calm, he listened fully, and when he spoke, it was quiet, clear, and firm. No defensiveness, no apology for his existence. He didn't react emotionally, because he knew exactly who he was, and over time, people noticed. They stopped underestimating him. They started respecting him. Why? Because stillness, in a world addicted to noise, is shocking. That is silent strength, and it begins with a simple but powerful habit. Practice the pause. Pause before you speak. Pause before you defend. Pause before you destroy something valuable over a temporary emotion. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So let me ask you again, who's really in control, you or the moment? Because every time you react without thinking, you become a puppet. But every time you breathe, every time you choose presence over panic, you build unshakable power. Not loud, not flashy, not for applause, but the kind of strength that stabilizes everything around you. Make no mistake, emotional control doesn't make you soft, it makes you untouchable. It's why some people walk through chaos like calm warriors, why their energy feels grounded, even when the world is on fire. They're no longer driven by emotion, they're guided by intention. So the next time someone tests you, remember this: you are the gatekeeper of your reaction. You can observe without absorbing, you can feel without becoming. You can choose your response, and in that choice lies your strength. This is the first step in building silent strength, and in the next part, we'll explore a power even deeper than emotional control. The ability to command a room without saying a word. Stay with me. Have you ever felt the urge to explain yourself, to convince others you're enough, to prove your worth through words, arguments, or achievements? We've all been there. We've all wanted to be understood. But the truth is, real strength doesn't beg for recognition. It doesn't seek validation. It simply is. There's a kind of power that speaks before you do. It's not loud. It's not flashy, but it's undeniable. That power is your presence. You see, the most grounded people you'll ever meet aren't the ones constantly trying to prove how smart, successful, or right they are. They're the ones who know who they are, and that knowing speaks louder than anything they could say. They walk into a room, and people feel something, a calm, a focus, a quiet confidence, that doesn't need to explain itself. That's silent strength, in its purest form. Lao Tzu once said, "Those who know do not speak, those who speak do not know." That doesn't mean we stay silent forever. It means, we don't speak from insecurity, we don't react from ego, we don't explain ourselves to people who are committed to misunderstanding us, because when your presence is aligned with your values, you don't need to defend it. Let me give you a real-world example. I once met a man at a leadership retreat. He didn't talk much, he wasn't loud, he didn't jump into debates, or boast about his accomplishments, but when he did speak, people leaned in, because his words were measured, intentional, and his stillness carried more wisdom than most people's speeches. You could just feel the clarity in him, not as performance, but as presence. That kind of man doesn't try to be impressive. He just is, and that's what makes him unforgettable. So here's the truth most people avoid: you don't need to prove yourself to be powerful, you need to know yourself, because when you're rooted in your own value, you don't chase arguments, you don't correct every misunderstanding, you don't explain your path to people who aren't walking it with you. You trust that the truth reveals itself over time, and it always does. So the next time someone doubts you, let them. The next time someone misjudges your character, stay still. And the next time you feel the pressure to explain your worth, pause. breathe, and remind yourself, my value isn't determined by their understanding. You don't owe the world a performance, you owe yourself integrity, that quiet, calm, consistent presence, that says, I'm not here to impress you, I'm here to live truthfully. That's real strength, that's what people respect, and that is what leaves a legacy that noise never could. Let's clear something up. Motivation is loud, but discipline is silent. Motivation feels good, that high-energy video that gives you goosebumps, that quote on Instagram that hits just right, that song in your headphones that makes you feel unstoppable for about 5 minutes. But what happens after that? You close the app. The song ends. Reality hits, and the energy, it's gone. Motivation fades, that's its nature. But discipline shows up, with or without applause. It doesn't need hype, it doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need to feel right, it just does what's right. Discipline gets up when the bed is warm, it lifts when the body aches, it works when the mind resists. It doesn't post on social media, it doesn't wait for inspiration, it just shows up. You want to be grounded, respected, unshakable, then stop chasing emotional highs, and start building habits that don't depend on your mood. Because here's the truth, anyone can be motivated once, but not everyone can be disciplined every day, especially when no one's watching. Character isn't built on your best day, it's forged in discomfort, in resistance, in silence. Marcus Aurelius once said, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, remind yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being. Not the work of a superhero, not a perfect man, but a human, flawed, tired, real, and still showing up anyway. Let me tell you a story. There's a man in my neighborhood, quiet guy, doesn't brag, doesn't post gym selfies, doesn't talk about his goals, but every morning at 5 a.m. rain or shine, he's outside, training, moving, building, no excuses, no hype, just presence. A year later, he walks differently, carries himself with calm confidence, and people notice. They ask him for advice, not because he talked about success, but because he became it. That's discipline. It doesn't shout, it doesn't entertain, it transforms you from the inside out, not overnight, but over time. Because life doesn't reward the loudest, it rewards the one who keeps showing up. So here's your challenge, set your alarm, and honor it. Build routines that feed your mind, your body, your soul, even when no one claps, even when you're tired. Even when you fail, because yes, you will fail, but that's when discipline kicks in, and it says, I don't care that it's hard, I don't care that no one's watching, I made a promise to myself, and I will not break it. That's rare today. Most people fold under pressure, wait for the right mood, the right season, the right energy, but not you. You become different the day you stop needing external hype, and start creating internal order. So next time motivation fades, and it will, don't collapse, don't negotiate with excuses, don't ask, do I feel like it? Just show up, quietly, powerfully, consistently, because the most dangerous man in the room isn't the loud one, it's the one who keeps coming back, no matter what. Let me ask you something. How many times have you said yes, when deep down, every fiber of your being was screaming no? We've all been there. We say yes, to avoid disappointing others, to keep the peace, to be liked, to avoid being misunderstood. But here's the truth no one tells you. Every time you say yes to what drains you, you say no to your own power. You betray your energy. You scatter your focus, you sacrifice your growth, for comfort, and that is how most people lose themselves. But here's what the strongest people understand, saying no isn't selfish. It's self-respect, it's not rude, it's responsible. because your time, your energy, your mind, are sacred, and if you don't protect them, no one will. Saying no is an act of inner freedom. It's the moment you stop living to please, and start living to build. Let me tell you a story. There's a man I once knew, quiet, polite. Still, he turned down parties, declined late nights, refused pointless obligations, not because he was arrogant, but because he was building something. He was building himself, and while others chased approval, he chased purpose. Years later, the same people who rolled their eyes at his silence started seeking him out. His advice, his mentorship, his time. Why? Because his no made space for a stronger yes. Yes to focus, yes to growth, yes to mastery. Marcus Aurelius said it best: if it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. In a world addicted to yes, to every trend, every invite, every shiny opportunity, your strength comes from knowing when to step back. And here's the reminder: you don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't have to defend your peace. You don't need to justify your path. To people who were never meant to walk it with you, you're allowed to say, "No, I'm not available. No, that doesn't align with me." Or simply, no. Say it calmly, say it clearly, say it without guilt, because you're not rejecting them, you're choosing you. Let's be honest, if you're always available to everyone, you'll end up available to nothing that truly matters. So here's the challenge: start small, say no to what drains you, to what distracts you, to what dishonors your mission. Each time you say no with clarity, you reclaim your energy, you reclaim your time, you reclaim you. So stop fearing rejection, start respecting alignment, because your destiny won't be shaped by what you agree to, it will be shaped by what you're brave enough to walk away from. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation, wishing you had said less, wishing you'd paused, taken a breath, and let silence do the talking? We live in a world addicted to noise, endless debates, opinions shouted like weapons, status updates, arguments, performances, and in the middle of all that chaos, we forget one truth: silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. In motion, we've been conditioned to believe that the loudest voice wins, that the person who speaks first, fastest, and most is the one in control. But that's a myth, because true power doesn't need to raise its voice. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we should listen twice as much as we speak." Think about that. Nature is already telling you something. Observe more, react less, speak only when your words are more valuable than the silence you're breaking. I once met a young man, smart, opinionated, always ready to argue. He wanted to be right in every room. But here's what happened: no one really heard him, because when you talk constantly, your words start to lose weight. Then something shifted. His mentor told him, "Every word you speak costs energy. Choose wisely what you spend it on." So he changed, he watched, he listened, he spoke less, and when he did, he didn't try to win. He tried to elevate, and that's when people leaned in, because silence carries weight. When it's rooted in clarity, it makes people curious, it creates presence, and when you speak, your words land deeper, stronger, cleaner. That's emotional mastery. That's discipline in action. Anyone can react. It takes zero strength to argue, interrupt, or dominate, but to pause, to breathe, to let a moment pass, without needing to fill it with noise, that's power. Here's what most people never realize: not every criticism needs a response, not every attack deserves your energy, not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to stay silent, and when you do choose to speak, speak slowly, Speak clearly, speak with purpose, not performance. Let the silence before your words build anticipation. Let your presence speak louder than your voice ever could. Because here's the truth, words lose value when thrown around carelessly, but when spoken with precision, they move mountains. So speak less, but when you do, let your words carry the weight of discipline. Let them echo long after you've said them, because that's how you build presence, that's how you build legacy, that's how you embody silent strength. Let me be clear, we live in a world that feeds on your attention. Every second, someone's trying to pull you into outrage, into conflict, into distractions dressed as urgency. One viral headline, one misinterpreted comment, one person misunderstanding you, and just like that, your peace is gone. But here's the truth, not everything deserves your energy, and the day you fully understand that, is the day you begin to tap into something rare, silent power. I'm not talking about coldness. I'm not talking about apathy, I'm talking about something deeper, something rooted in ancient wisdom. The Stoics called it apatheia. Not caring about the things that don't matter, not because you're detached from life, but because you're attached to what truly matters. It's the highest discipline, to care deeply about your values, and let go of everything else. Let me ask you, how often do you react just because you feel provoked? How often do you explain yourself just to gain approval? How often do you lose sleep over things you can't control? Now imagine this instead, you hear gossip, and you don't respond, you get overlooked, and you remain centered, you get misunderstood, and you let it be. That is strength, the kind of strength that doesn't shake under judgment, the kind that doesn't rise and fall with public opinion. I once knew a man who lived this out. He never raised his voice, never chased recognition. When others gossiped, he stayed silent. When others won, he congratulated them. When he lost, he didn't flinch. People called him quiet. Some thought he was weak, but years later, they came to him for guidance, for mentorship, for clarity. Why? Because while they chased noise, he mastered stillness. Seneca once said, "A great man is he who uses earthenware dishes as if they were silver." What does that mean? It means your peace. Your dignity should never depend on what's outside of you, not on a promotion, not on an opinion, not on applause, or silence. Let me tell you one more story. A man didn't get the promotion he worked for. People expected him to explode, to walk away, but he didn't. He showed up the next day, calm, steady, focused, not to prove a point, but because that's who he was. And months later, an even better opportunity came. Why? Because his character outlasted the disappointment. That's the discipline of detachment. That's what happens when you stop reacting and start choosing. So here's your challenge. Stop handing out your peace like it's cheap. Stop defending yourself to people who don't hear you. Stop fighting battles that cost you more than they're worth. And instead, stand tall, stay grounded, choose silence when it serves you, because the most powerful person in the room isn't the loud one, it's the one who speaks last, or doesn't speak at all. Your peace isn't up for negotiation. That is the discipline of detachment. That is the strength of a Stoic. Let me be clear, we live in a world that wants your attention, constantly. It wants you outraged by this headline, pulled into that drama, triggered by every opinion, every insult, every outcome. But here's the quiet truth, not everything deserves your energy, and that is where silent power begins. Indifference, not coldness, not apathy, but Stoic clarity, is the highest discipline you can cultivate. It's not about shutting down emotionally. It's about mastering where you place your energy. It's about asking, is this worth my peace, my time, my dignity? Most people don't realize it, but the ability to not react to every small offense, to not chase every distraction, to not explain yourself every time someone misunderstands you, that's power. I once knew a man who never chased conflict, never argued over gossip, never explained himself to people committed to misunderstanding him. He didn't care if people thought he was distant, he cared about living on his terms, and because of that, he moved through life, grounded, focused, free. He wasn't owned by outcomes, he was driven by principle. He could lose and still walk tall, he could win and not boast, and that's rare, because most people are so wrapped up in proving themselves, defending themselves, chasing things that don't even matter in the long run. Seneca once said, "A great man is he who uses earthenware dishes as if they were silver." What does that mean? It means your peace, your worth, your dignity should never depend on things outside of you, not a promotion, not someone's opinion, not the applause, or the silence. There's another story. A man didn't get the promotion he deserved. People expected him to explode, to quit, to fall apart. But he didn't. He showed up the next day, calm, steady, committed. He kept working, not to prove a point, but because that's who he was. Months later, a better opportunity opened up. Why? Because his character outlasted the disappointment. That's what true Stoic discipline looks like. So here's the challenge for you. Stop chasing validation from people who don't value you. Stop reacting to every insult like it deserves your dignity. Stop letting every external loss feel like an internal failure. Instead, let others talk. Let outcomes unfold. Let misunderstandings remain. If your heart is clean, if your effort is real, that's enough. Be the person who doesn't need to win every argument, because you've already won control over yourself. Be the one who knows when to walk away, not out of weakness, but because your peace isn't up for negotiation. That is the discipline of detachment, the strength of indifference, the art of focusing only on what you can control, and letting the rest pass. Like the wind, there's a kind of strength the world doesn't praise. You won't find it trending. You won't hear it shouted in speeches, or posted in highlight reels. It's the quiet kind, the kind that bleeds, breaks, and bends, but does not broadcast its pain. It's the strength to endure. In silence, anyone can scream when life hurts, anyone can post a sad quote, or ask for sympathy when they feel defeated, but it takes real power to stand tall when your heart is heavy, when you're misunderstood, when the storm is within. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed, nothing happens to you. Everything simply happens. What matters is how you respond. That's the truth most people run from. You don't control what life throws at you. You only control how you carry it, and sometimes, the strongest response is no response at all, just breath, just presence, just the quiet decision, I will carry this, without complaint, without need for applause. Let me ask you, have you ever walked through something that broke you, but no one knew? You went to work, you smiled, you showed up, not because it was easy, but because you refused to collapse. That wasn't weakness, that was inner gravity, that was silent mastery. Epictetus once said, don't wish for things to happen the way you want, wish for things to happen as they do, and you will find peace. That's not surrender. That's alignment with life itself. It's not about pretending nothing hurts, it's about learning to hurt with dignity. You don't need to wear your wounds on your sleeve, you don't need to explain your struggle to be valid. The most powerful men and women I've met are the ones who've carried mountains, in silence, not out of pride, but out of clarity, that their healing, their power, their process, it's sacred. So the next time life pushes you to the edge, don't rush to broadcast the pain. Sit with it, let it shape you, not define you. Breathe deeply, and say to yourself, I will go through this. I don't need the world to see how strong I am. I just need to be it. Because when you can endure without applause, when you can walk through fire, without screaming for witnesses, you become unstoppable, and that, my friend, is a strength so rare, the world won't understand it, but you don't need it to. Let me ask you something. Have you ever lost control in a split second, said something you didn't mean, reacted with anger, and later sat in silence thinking, why did I let that get to me? You're not alone, we've all been there, but here's the hard truth most people never face. You are not what happens to you, you are how you respond to it. That's it, your reaction, that split-second space between what hits you and what you choose to do next. That is your true identity, not your job title, not your social media following, not your perfectly crafted words, but how you show up when life tests you, and life will test you. The Stoics taught something profound: events are neutral. What gives them power is your interpretation. A delay isn't automatically a setback, an insult isn't automatically an attack, being ignored doesn't automatically mean you're unworthy. You decide what meaning to assign, you decide whether it's a lesson or a trigger, because your reaction, that's your reputation. Viktor Frankl once said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is sacred. When you pause, when you breathe, when you observe before you explode, you reclaim your power. Let me paint you a picture. A man stands in front of a crowd. He's just been accused of something he didn't do. All eyes are on him. Everyone expects outrage, an argument, a defense. But he doesn't give them any of it. He stands, still, composed, focused, silent. Moments later, the truth comes out. He's innocent, but what people remember wasn't just the truth, they remember his presence. His restraint, his refusal to let emotion define him. That is silent strength, because in a world addicted to noise, stillness shocks people. When you don't react like everyone else, you stand apart. You send a message, not with words, but with self-control. I am not owned by chaos, I am not owned by ego, I own myself. And that's the kind of power no one can take from you. So here's your challenge. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. When the world tries to rush you, pause. When your ego screams for retaliation, pause. And ask yourself, is this worthy of my energy? Will my reaction reflect the person I want to become? Because anyone can shout, anyone can argue, anyone can collapse, but it takes a rare kind of strength to stay calm, to stay rooted, to stay in control. Train for that, practice it in the small moments. When no one's watching, because when you master your reaction, you master your life. And in a world of chaos and noise, that kind of power, it's untouchable. So now you've seen it. Silent power isn't a myth. It's not some mystical trait you're either born with or not. It's a discipline, a choice, a presence you build, moment by moment. You've learned what it really looks like to control your emotions when others lose theirs, to speak less, but with intention, to say no, and guard your energy like sacred ground, to build discipline, not for applause, but for identity, to show up again and again, even when no one's watching. To stay calm when chaos surrounds you, to endure in silence, not for pity, but because your strength is deeper than words, and to remember this, your reaction, not your environment, defines who you are. That is the essence of silent power. You don't have to shout to be strong, you don't need to convince anyone, you don't need to be understood, because real strength doesn't ask for attention, it commands it, not with volume, but with gravity. You've seen these people before, maybe in real life, maybe in a movie. They walk into a room, and before they even say a word, you feel them. They don't posture, they don't beg, they don't explain themselves. Because they've done the work, They've earned a presence that speaks before they do. That's inner authority. But here's the secret: they weren't born that way, they built it, one moment at a time, one decision at a time, one silent battle at a time. And so can you. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need more noise. What you need is mastery over yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your energy. Because when you have that, you stop walking into the world looking for power, you bring it with you. So let me leave you with this: be still when others panic, choose clarity when others chase chaos. Speak with purpose, not noise, walk with integrity, not ego, and when the world gets loud, become quieter, still, certain, unshaken, because in that silence, you will finally hear yourself, and when you know yourself, no one can touch that power. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. So the next time someone asks, "Where does your power come from?" don't explain it, don't justify it, just live it, let it radiate, let it be felt, not heard, because in this noisy world, be the calm voice, in the storm, be the steady presence, in confusion, be the one others look to. That is silent strength, that is Stoic power, and it's already within you. Now go live it.